Why are aircraft carriers losing their shine? How the Type 055 rewrites the rules of the Western Pacific. 1,792 launch cells. The secret behind the overwhelming firepower. In the deep autumn of 2025 in the Western Pacific, the salty sea breeze swept across the deck, and a piece of news, carried by satellite signals, spread throughout the global military community. 16 of China's Type 055 10,000-ton class destroyers, painted in deep gray stealth coatings, sailed in a diamond-shaped formation, directly forcing the U.S. Navy's nuclear-powered carrier, the USS Gerald R. Ford, which was conducting a lightning carrier drill in the Philippine Sea, to immediately turn away and retreat to a safe area 1,200 kilometers from the Type 055 formation. For the past half-century, the aircraft carrier has been the undisputed, mobile fortress of the seas. From the Korean War to the Gulf War, the carrier-borne aircraft of a carrier strike group, CSG, symbolized oceanic dominance, capable of paralyzing the coastline of a mid-sized nation. But now, the $13 billion Ford is being forced to avoid a destroyer whose single ship cost is only $1 billion, seemingly validating the nickname, floating target, used by military enthusiasts. This incident not only broke the internet, in domestic military forums, where some military fans dug up 10-year-old posts asking, "When will China have a 10,000-ton destroyer?" and felt a sense of surreal history, but it also caused an uproar within the U.S. military. Internal Pentagon discussion memos revealed a general stating bluntly, "This is the most serious signal of naval power imbalance since the end of the Cold War." Others sharply questioned, "How did the supercarriers we spent hundreds of billions building suddenly become useless?" The answer lies in a disruptive weapon that keeps the U.S. anti-air defense system up all night. The YJ-21 hypersonic anti-ship missile, an ultra-long-range assassin, prowling the oceans. Don't be fooled by technical terms like hypersonic or ballistic missile. In plain language, its terrifying nature is this: unpredictable flight. It doesn't just fly fast, it performs unpredictable maneuvers, like a skipping stone, making it impossible for existing U.S. radars to accurately calculate its trajectory. Devastating range. Its 1,500-kilometer range is 200 kilometers farther than the straight-line distance from Beijing to Shanghai, and nearly double the maximum combat radius, 830 kilometers, of the Ford's F-35C carrier-based fighter jets. Unrivaled speed. Its terminal speed is Mach 10, translating to 12,250 kilometers per hour, 5 times the speed of an ordinary rifle bullet, and faster than the U.S. Navy's fastest Standard Missile 6, SM-6, interceptor, Mach 6. What does this mean? It takes less than 3 minutes from the Type 055's launch to impact the carrier 1,500 kilometers away. An F-35C, on the other hand, needs at least 45 minutes to take off from the carrier, climb to operational altitude, and fly to the target area. By the time it locks onto the Type 055, its own carrier deck would likely be blasted into a honeycomb by the YJ-21's penetrating warhead. It's a combat mismatch of entirely different dimensions, like trying to dial a number on your phone while the delivery package has already smashed through your front door. Even more lethal is its smart attack capability. Utilizing Qianshuosan's trajectory technology, it can adjust its flight path in real time while gliding at the edge of the atmosphere. U.S. military simulations have shown that it can easily bypass the Aegis destroyer's defensive net. A leaked internal report from the U.S. Pacific Fleet last year was blunt. Faced with a saturation attack from the YJ-21, the existing air defense system's interception success rate is less than 15%. That means out of 10 missiles, at most only 1 can be stopped. This can reach, cannot intercept, cannot escape characteristic has made the YJ-21 the carrier's exclusive nemesis, giving the Type 055 the confidence to stand up to a supercarrier. Adding to this is the Type 055's all-dimensional Sky-Eye system. Its dual-band phased array radar can simultaneously track 400 targets, from small drones to large carriers, with a detection range of 4,500 kilometers, covering everything from China's east coast to Guam. When 16 Type 055s network together, integrating data from satellites and early warning aircraft, they weave a 1,500-kilometer radius, Skynet, that can even lock onto the trajectory of a single seabird. In the past, carriers dominated by first to detect, first to strike. The Type 055 has completely reversed this logic. How exactly do these 16 steel behemoths rewrite the rules of the ocean? Is it firepower dominance or a technological generation gap? Today, we will dissect the hard power of the Type 055 and examine the embarrassing situation of Western navies. You will find that the so-called end of the carrier era was never a sudden accident, but an inevitable outcome of the Chinese Navy's decades of deep accumulation. Section 1. 1792 launch cells. The secret to overwhelming firepower. The most intimidating aspect of the Type 055 is its sheer missile density, like a mobile missile warehouse. Each Type 055 is equipped with 112 Universal Vertical Launch System (VLS) cells, capable of both hot and cold launches. 16 ships total 1,792 launch ports. What does this number mean? The U.S. Navy's most advanced Arleigh Burke-class Flight III destroyer has only 96 VLS cells, and can only carry a single type of missile in its cells. Switching from anti-ship to anti-air missiles requires physically changing the loadout. Even more exaggerated is the cost. A single Type 055 costs about $1 billion, while the Burke Flight III has ballooned to $2.7 billion per ship. This means China is building a more heavily armed warship for one-third the price. A war game simulation jointly conducted by China's Shipbuilding and Huazhong University of Science and Technology last year starkly revealed this gap. One Type 055 plus a drone swarm versus 8 Burke-class destroyers in the waters east of Taiwan. The U.S. forces first launched 32 Tomahawk and stealth anti-ship missiles, but the 32 drones and 14 unmanned surface vessels, USVs, deployed by the Type 055 acted as human shields and intercepted all incoming attacks. Once the Burke destroyer's defensive missiles were depleted, the Type 055's YJ-21 missiles were launched, sinking all 8 Burke ships in under 20 minutes. Compounding the humiliation, U.S. tests show that the advanced SM-6 anti-air missile has less than a 30% interception rate against a saturation attack by the YJ-21. Less than 3 out of 10 missiles can be stopped. The contrast with European navies further highlights the disparity. The UK's Type 45 destroyer, hailed as Europe's leading warship, costs £1 billion, about $1.15 billion, but has only 48 VLS cells, and is notoriously plagued by heart issues. In 2016, all 6 Type 45s were collectively stuck in port, and in 2022, the HMS Diamond suffered engine failure while escorting a carrier group and had to detach. France's Horizon-class destroyer is worse, also with 48 VLS cells, and its anti-ship missiles are the US-bought Harpoons with a range of only 300 kilometers. A handgun, compared to the YJ-21's 1,500-kilometer sniper rifle range. Analysis. This is not merely an overwhelming difference in numbers, but a generational leap in technology leading to dimension-reducing warfare. The U.S. once relied on the carrier-plus aircraft to achieve air superiority, essentially a short-legged versus long-legged logic. Now, the Type 055, with its 1,500-kilometer range YJ-21, has turned the carrier's offensive advantage into a survival disadvantage. The surging cost of the Burke class and the frequent breakdowns of European ships indicate that their technological pathways are no longer keeping pace with the times. The Type 055, with its 1,792 launch cells, proves that the key to maritime dominance has shifted from whose aircraft flies farthest to whose missile is more accurate and has greater range. This change is not gradual, it is revolutionary. Section 2. Low cost, high performance, the economic nightmare for Western navies. If firepower is the Type 055's hard fist, then its cost effectiveness is its killer feature. The $1 billion cost of a single Type 055 is not only one-third that of a Burke Flight 3 but also maximizes the principle of getting more for less. Its 112 VLS cells are a universal socket, capable of mixing and matching 8 types of missiles: anti-air, anti-ship, anti-submarine, and land attack. For example, the HQ-9B anti-air missile has a 200 km range, and the CJ-10 cruise missile has a 2,000 km range. The flexibility to load YJ-21s for carrier strikes or CJ-10s for coastal targets is enough to make Western navies weep with envy. The U.S. Navy is now in a dilemma: either spend more money to build ships or accept a decline in capability. A Congressional Budget Office report shows the cost of the Burke Flight 3 rising from $2.1 billion to $2.7 billion, with frequent delivery delays. The lead ship, the Jack H. Lucas, has entered service, but the second ship's keel laying was delayed by 25 months. The next generation DDG-X destroyer is even more outrageous. The Navy projects a $3.3 billion cost per ship, but Congress estimates the actual cost will be $4.4 billion, and construction is not expected to begin until 2034, 2 years later than planned. In contrast, China is building the Type 055 in parallel at 2 shipyards, Jiangnan and Dalian, launching 2 to 3 ships annually. The 14th ship is nearing launch, and the goal of 16 ships will soon be achieved. The UK's predicament is even more tangible. To keep up, the UK poured £100 million into the Dragonfire laser weapon, claiming it will be installed on the Type 45 by 2027 and can hit a £1 coin at 1 kilometer. However, the upgraded Type 055A was designed with pre-installed interfaces for electromagnetic rail guns and laser weapons. The elevator shaft was included when the building was first built. In contrast, the UK is attempting to install an elevator in an old building, and success is far from guaranteed. More ironically, the Type 45 destroyer's power plant issues have never been fully resolved, and even in 2025, a ship had to be towed back to port during an exercise. Even with a laser weapon, it might break down shortly after leaving the harbor. Analysis: the cost-effectiveness is underpinned by China's complete and resilient industrial supply chain. The Type 055 has a domestic manufacturing rate of 98%. All its components, from radar to missiles, are domestically developed. In contrast, the Burke class relies on imported parts for 30%.